Welcome back. So we are ready to finish our chapter about signal transduction. We've talked about different ways that G protein coupled receptors can signal. We've talked about how receptor tyrosine kinases can signal. We talked about a few other enzyme linked receptors. And we've kind of discussed it as kind of this linear stream of one domino than the next. But in reality, a cell is not going to be exposed to just one hormone or one growth factor. There's going to be lots of things going on in its environment, and it's going to be coordinating a lot of different signals at once. And so, as they're coordinating these different signals, they're going to do things such as localizing signaling complexes in a scaffold. So, here you have this kind of scaffold here to keep these proteins all together. Or integrating different signaling pathways. So two different signaling pathways will kind of crosstalk and interact with each other. So cells need to be able to integrate all those different signals coming from different cells at the same time. So one way is that one receptor can activate different pathways. Another thing that could happen is multiple pathways can all converge on the same thing. So you could have multiple pathways all converging on calcium or all converging on IP3. Sometimes activated components from one pathway are going to activate another pathway. So you could have a signal here that turns on another pathway to get other things working together. This is what signaling crosstalk is. So you can see it kind of creates more of like this spider web, less just straight lines and more of just things can interact all over the place. So this ion channel is going to lead to changes. This ligand binding this G protein coupled receptor is leading to changes. This receptor tyrosine kinase is going to lead to changes. And they're all going to kind of cross talk back and forth to all end up phosphorylating their target proteins and turning on genes in the nucleus. Several pathways are going to produce second messengers like calcium ions here or IP3 here. Many pathways are ultimately going to lead to phosphorylation. So things like this kinase or this kinase or this kinase, we're going to end up phosphorylating target proteins. Or here, target proteins are being phosphorylated. And that end result, those end target proteins can carry on different cellular functions, whether it is to start acting something here in the cytoplasm or come into the nucleus and act as a transcription factor or a transcription inhibitor to turn on and off genes. We've mentioned the endocrine system already this chapter. Endocrine hormones are going to travel from one cell that sends it to a cell that receives it, and they're going to travel through the blood vessels. So here, your adrenal gland is releasing epinephrine. It travels through your heart, travels through your circulatory system, and it's picked up by epinephrine receptors on your liver cells and on your heart cells. It's going to lead to things like increasing your heart rate of your heart muscles and increasing the breakdown of glycogen within the liver cells. These hormones can have a lifespan from just a few seconds, so it's immediate response to a few hours. It might take a few hours for your cell to stop responding to some signals. And as these hormones are circulating, they're going to interact with receptors. Here's some different kinds of hormones we have. One would be amino acid derivatives. These would be things like epinephrine and norepinephrine that are going to be involved in stress responses, regulating your heart rate and your blood pressure, releasing glucose and fatty acids from storage sites. Thyroxine, which is going to regulate your metabolic rate. There are peptides, which are several amino acids put together. This includes vasopressin, antidiuretic hormones that regulate the water in your body and your blood pressure. Hypothalamic hormones that are going to regulate tropic hormones and the release of tropic hormones from the pituitary gland. Proteins, which are now getting bigger than just a peptide. You've built a whole three-dimensional protein. This would include anterior pituitary hormones that are involved in the regulation of other endocrine systems. And steroids, which include sex hormones like androgens and androgens being male and estrogens being the female, that help develop and control reproductive capacity, secondary sexual characteristics, and corticosteroids that are involved in stress responses and controlling blood electrolytes. There are paracrine hormones, things like histamine, that is going to be involved in local responses to an allergic response, a stress, or an injury. Arachidonic acid derivatives, such as prostaglandins, that are going to be local responses to stress and injury, signaling that it's time to heal. And then we have steroid hormones. And steroid hormones, because they are hydrophobic, they don't need a receptor outside of the cell. They can just go straight through that cell membrane right into the cytosol. So steroid hormones will be able to bind to receptors right into the cytosol and carry them into the nucleus. Steroid hormones bind to receptors that act primarily in the nucleus. The steroid receptor proteins are going to do things like mediate progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, and glucocorticoids. Because they're hydrophobic, they easily pass through the plasma membrane. And then when they're inside the cell, it binds to its receptor and then either activates or inhibits transcription of genes. Gases can act as cell signals. So in animals, oxygen and carbon dioxide are long-range signals in respiration. And if you have too much carbon dioxide in your body, that's going to trigger your body that you need to either speed up breathing or make new red blood cells. In plants, ripening of fruit is mediated by a plant hormone, ethylene gas. And in our nervous system, in animals, we have nitric oxide, which is an important gaseous signaling molecule. All right, so that wasn't too much to just kind of close up this chapter. We're still going to talk about some signaling in our nerve cells, which are pretty important because that's what controls our body. So I'll see you soon to talk about those. Bye.